All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Jay Tiegs, certified high-performance coach, transformational mindset coach. Welcome to another episode of the podcast where we have great discussions with engaging guests on a variety of high-performance topics. In today's episode, I'm honored to have special guest Andrew Beattie from Azimuth X to talk about leadership and his experiences as an air traffic controller and some lessons that he learned. Thanks for being here, Andrew. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, Jay. Doing good. How about you?
Man, I'm doing great. It's Friday. Can't complain. I'm excited about the weekend. But before we get into today's episode, real quick, some housekeeping notes for the listener. Please subscribe so you're notified of future episodes of the podcast. And leave us a review on Apple. It goes a long way to expanding the Do Hard Things Nation. It helps us with the algorithm and expanding as people are looking for good podcasts to listen to. And it means a lot. I read every one of them, and we've got some great ratings and reviews. And so that's the only thing that we ask for around here. This is a free service to you. Just ask that you take 2 minutes to go over to iTunes and do that for us. If you got any value from this episode or any other episode, just take a screenshot, share it, tag it. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can send us an email or send me a direct message. You can reach out to Andrew and like, hey, man, that was awesome. We'll put his contact information. But we'd love to hear your feedback. If there was some kind of nugget of wisdom or something that you could take away, don't hold that in. Share it with someone that needs to hear the message. This episode is sponsored by Do Hard Things Apparel. If you want some awesome motivational apparel, high quality apparel, go to dohardthingsnation.com. We recently just dropped the Do Hard Things flags. We have 2 different types of hats over there, and we're dropping new shirts every week, and keep an eye out for some new and exciting things coming in the future. So go to dohardthingsnation.com. And all right, so that's it with the housekeeping bit. Let me tell you a little bit about Andrew. So here's his bio. So Andrew Beattie is an Air Force veteran, air traffic controller, and founder of Azimuth X, a leadership and management training and coaching company. Over the years, he struggled with working for and listening to experiences of bad organizational leadership and management. So Andrew enrolled in countless courses and read countless books to learn more about the respective fields of leadership. At 18, Andrew had his first management position and started to gain experience. Combining with what he learned in his experiences, he found great mentors and was able to piece together reasons why so many people are having these bad experiences with leaders and management. It boiled down to 2 main things: lack of training and what courses were taught, the types of training. So Andrew's mission is to move people in the right direction on their leadership and management journey through proper instruction of time-tested methods, building structure, and continuing education. With these methods, he's been able to build effective and efficient organizational cultures, teams, and individuals. Andrew, I love what you're doing. I think that leadership is an incredibly important topic. And our society in general, kind of void of leadership, and a lot of organizations are struggling with that. So I appreciate that you're out there trying to help people improve their leadership and improve their organizations.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on again. It's been great. But yeah, I mean, you hit on a really important point. Leadership is kind of lacking, all throughout the world and in a bunch of organizations. So I think it's really important that we need to address this problem now so we can have a decent future.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we struggle with leadership?
I'll be honest. I mean, it like you kind of hit on it in the bio, lack of training, companies not investing in the proper training, poor training, bad habits being passed down to the new generations and stuff like that. So we're not instilling the right things in the up and coming people.
There's a lot of management out there. When I hear the term management, I just kind of cringe a little bit. I think the military, we're both veterans of the military and have a lot of experiences there. I think that's of the large enterprise of the military. There's good and bad to everyone's service, but I think what the military does really well is it develops leaders from all walks of life in a very rapid manner. And I think that that's why a lot of organizations value veterans in the military community to take that experience and to bring it into their organization, is because leadership is different than management, in my perspective. And good leadership can really create a culture and create an organization that executes its mission with excellence and creates that dynamic where people just want to be a part of the team. the number one reason people leave organizations is because they don't feel valued or appreciated. They feel like a number, and toxic leaders. I think about the movie Horrible Bosses, right?
Yeah.
So that, and I think there's a lot of organizations, like you said, they don't emphasize leadership enough. So what is your method and your strategy? I guess, what are some of your principles that are important to you in regards to leadership?
So for me, I mean, my core values are honestly the same as the Air Force. You know, respect, integrity, and service before self. So I take that, and excellence in all we do. I take that same methodology and I take that to my coaching business. So I work one on one with people, and I think that's one of the better ways to do it because you can really connect with somebody. Everybody's different. You know, we talk about large classroom settings and stuff like that where one teacher is accountable for 30 people, but we want that teacher to adapt to every single individual. You know, group coaching can work, but I think the most effective way is one-on-one, and each has their different advantages, but one-on-one to me is more personal. I can work with you on your specific issues. So that's kind of the approach that I take to coaching, and making sure that we can turn somebody into, you know, a beginner leader or a beginner manager and bring them into a top tier level.
I think that's great. In fact, it's interesting that you say that, because I had a one-on-one client this morning who is also a coach, and he recently was hired by an organization to come in and deliver performance coaching to the team. And basically, what the leaders did, they're like, "Hey, we need you to come in, and basically, we need you to fix our people." So he
Yeah.
came in and he started delivering one-on-one sessions to some of the team. And I think he was on team member number 3. And it didn't turn out so well because the individual didn't have a positive view of upper management, and it kind of came out in the coaching. And really good coaching is going to get you to shift your perspective. That this individual realized that the organization was maybe a little bit toxic, got a little bit more vocal and emboldened, and ultimately was thinking about quitting and finding a new career altogether. That's the power of coaching.
Yeah.
And basically what my client had learned was, you know, going forward, like, the coaching process needs to come from the top down. And as he goes
Right.
forward and he goes in the organization, that's where he's going to start, is like, um, because leadership starts from the top down, and the whole organization needs to understand the process. And, and, and I thought that was quite powerful and said a lot about that particular organization. It told me everything that I needed to know. Come in and fix my people. Right. And then it didn't
Yeah.
turn out well.
Well, yeah, I mean, come in and fix my people, but you know, what are the issues? I guess, you know, that's one of the questions that I probably would ask. Like, what are you wanting me to fix? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, but no, I mean, communication is huge, and I think we talk about it a lot, but I don't think it's necessarily understood and valued as much as it really needs to be.
Mhm.
Um, Communicating the vision is something I harp on a lot, and a lot of organizations, they don't do it. They don't do it enough. And whether that's just in passing, you know, sending out emails at like the annual Christmas party or something like that, like we just don't talk about the vision as much as we should.
Yeah.
I remember specifically, it's just super vivid in my mind, but we had a wing commander when I was in the Air Force. We had this huge hangar filled with people, and it was it was, I guess, delivered as a commander's call, but the way he executed it was he put the vision of what we do as a wing into all the videos, into his whole speech, and it was actually really motivating. I was like, that's why I'm here. That's why we do what we do. You know, it's
Yes.
not just go to work 9 to 5, I work planes, I go home. It's like, this is the bigger picture and why we're all here.
Yeah, and good leaders have that compelling. It's got to be a compelling vision statement that's believable. Because
Yep.
I've been in organizations where we had a mission statement, but no one was really role modeling. It was almost like something that we had to talk about or had to say, but no
Yep.
one lived it. But the
Yeah.
best organizations that I was ever a part of had a compelling vision statement, and the leadership constantly, every time that they were addressing the team, would bring the principles of the vision into as a reminder of the team in the greater picture. And I think
Right.
some of the best organizations do that incredibly well. And I think it's a fundamental thing that leaders need to do. What is your vision for the organization?
Hmm.
How are you getting the team to buy in on that?
Yep.
And I think to even add on to that, I think some of the best organizations get buy-in from the people to help create the vision.
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
people will support what they create. And if you can get that buy-in from everyone, then you're getting everyone to row in the same direction.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, rowing in the same direction is kind of I actually just put that on my Facebook page today. There was an image about that, but it's true, and I found it kind of astounding. Fast forward a couple of years after that particular commander had left, and I'm sitting there teaching the John C. Maxwell 360-degree leader course for the Professional Enhancement Center. And I asked him, I said, so what is the Wings or mission statement? What's your group? What's your squadron? And I just got blank stares. And so I did a quick turnaround and went over to the computer. I minimized the screen, and there it was on the screen. Everybody's home screen on any government computer had it on there every single day, and nobody knew it. But it's because that's what they thought would work, but there's no communication. There's no site visits. And like you said, I mean, reiterating why we're doing what we're doing every time you see somebody. So yeah, I mean, communicating the vision is super important.
Yes. I think it's overlooked. It's so
Mhm.
overlooked. It's something that's fundamental, but it's overlooked by a lot of organizations.
Yep.
The vision has to be compelling, so when times get tough in your organization, you remember why you started. It's kind of like, why is
Yeah.
it necessary? Why do we exist?
Hmm.
And it keeps you from, when things are like you're having a difficulty of something like that, it just kind of gets everyone to stay focused, to push through, to get to the other side of this.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, okay. So what other aspects of business do you think are important that might be overlooked
Oh,
in
man,
leadership?
there's so many. I think people management is another one, or talent management. I guess if you want to kind of group those together, that's a huge one. But
Talent,
again, it
yeah.
goes
Let's
in.
talk about talent management. Let's talk
Yeah.
about. I think that I know a very large organization that I've been for a very long time has bled a
Hmm.
lot of great talent
Yes.
because of the lack of appreciation, right?
Hmm.
Or maximizing their capabilities.
Hmm.
What do you think about the topic of that?
Well, I don't think. Um, I mean, there's so many factors that go into it. I mean, if you follow a lot of the social media pages for these organizations, and I guess we'll specifically talk the military, but like the Air Force has pages, you have the Army that has pages. They bring to light a lot of the things that I guess the top level leadership doesn't see, doesn't know about, or just flat out chooses to ignore until
Mhm.
it really becomes a problem. And the main recurring theme that I'm seeing is it boils down to toxic leadership. And it's just bad decisions being made, knee jerk reaction decisions, no real thought into what we're doing in terms of like the strategic picture. So I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot. And I know the Air Force did that a long time ago. I think around 2013 timeframe was roughly the time that I joined. They were doing downsizing and they were paying people to get out. Well, fast forward a couple of years and they're like, oh, we don't have enough people. Well, I mean, you kind of shot yourself in the foot because you didn't have that long-term strategic plan, at least maybe not a solid one, and now you're suffering. But I mean, there's just so many different aspects as to why that happens. But in the private side, I think you're losing a lot of good talent because employers aren't valuing what those people bring to the table. And I know that pay is a huge talking point among the younger generation and stuff like that, and I do see the points that they're making. But again, that ties into a whole different different phenomena of things. But um, if you want to succeed and you want to make it through this recession that's coming up as a private organization, um, you need to retain some top tier talent, and that's what's gonna be what gets you through the rough times. And that, whether that's investing in training or coaching, like what you and I do. I mean, we can develop top tier people. You and I have the experience to be able to do that and the know how to do it. So I think talent management is going to be huge. I mean, it already is kind of big, but it's going to be even more important here in the future.
Yeah, a lot of industry leaders, people that are doing that I have talked to that have businesses that are doing well, and just a lot of leadership books on the topic of talent. they talk about, you need to invest and it is better to, um, pay a higher salary and draw good talent versus trying to, cheapen your way through it, right? You're going to
Yeah.
attract better people. You're going to find those A players for the team. And in the
Mhm.
long run, you're going to be better off. And I think you're right. There's a lot of organizations that aren't taking care of their people and they ultimately leave. And that there's a cost to that. There's a cost in that
Yeah.
you gotta go find a replacement. You're gonna have
Yep.
that gap in your organization. Um, there's a so I think by investing in your people up front and just paying the higher salary, investing in the coaching and training and supporting them, I think that in the long run, it's a better strategy than just trying to piecemeal it with cheap labor or getting by with
Yeah.
what you can.
Yeah,
So
it'll pay dividends. I mean, that's the thing you're looking for is you want a return on your investment. You're going to get that if you invest in employee training for sure. And I mean,
absolutely.
you kind of hit on it too. It's expensive to find new employees. I mean, because like you said, you got to pay. Sometimes you got to pay at least to advertise for it, and then you got to pay them to train them once they get
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the gap in your organization. I mean, it's going to be there for a while until they get up to speed and they learn how you do business, or they bring those good ideas that can adapt your business. But yeah, yeah, it's absolutely expensive.
Let's talk about, I'd love to talk about your experience as an air traffic controller. I find that fascinating.
All right, let's do it.
I know that it's a stressful job. I recently got to tour the air traffic control tower here at Fort Leonard Wood. And it was super cool to talk to those guys to kind of see how they live and how they got trained and the kind of the stresses and the nuances that go into the job.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know a lot, but I do know this. I know it's highly technical. I know
Mhm.
that you got to be calm under pressure. You have to be able to manage a lot of stress. And so I know that an article that you wrote was leadership tips from an air traffic controller. So I guess let's start off with ultimately, how did you get into that particular career field?
Yeah. So when I joined the Air Force, I was looking at the different jobs that I qualified for, and I was looking over it with my dad, and there were some pretty cool jobs on there where you go out and blow stuff up, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool as a young guy, you know. And then he's like, but you need to think about your future. And he's like, look into air traffic control, see what that's all about. So I looked in it. I was like, actually, that's not bad. I've always been into airplanes. I've loved aviation since I was a kid. I was that tiny kid at the airport with his nose pressed up against the glass, watching the airplanes take off and taxi back and forth. So I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot. So that was in 2013. I joined the Air Force and started my training as an air traffic controller. There's a couple different ways you can go about doing it. You can go the military route, which is roughly a 3-month tech school. And you just learn the bare bones basics. Or the FAA now is doing off the street bids where you'll go to their particular schoolhouse for a couple of months, learn the basics, and then go to your first facility. Or the third way, which not a whole lot of people do, but it is an option, is through college. It's usually a 2-year program. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go to one of those schools,
Mhm.
either the FAA or the military. So once you finish schooling, then you actually go to your first facility, and training time can range depending on which type of facility you go to, but 6 months to maybe 2 years or more. Um, and there's 3 main types of air traffic control services. You have the tower, which everybody kind of sees, everybody knows about when you're at the airport. You have radar approach control, which is the layer of airspace that is above the towers. And then you have a center, which they control large swaths of airspace above what the radar approach control facility does. So when you're cruising, you're at the center level. But as you're taking off and descending, you're going through all 3 types of airspace. I mean,
Mhm.
in a nutshell, that's what it is. A little bit more complex, but that's the layman's terms of it. So, yeah, you have to finish your training, whether it's 6 months, 2 years, to be a fully certified air traffic controller. It's a tough job. I mean, kind of like you said, you have to learn how to manage stress. You have to multitask, and I think that's part of why the attrition rate with the career field as a whole is roughly 85 to 90%. There's only 14,000 air traffic controllers out there.
Well, and that's what those guys in the tower were saying, that just even the training, like I think
Yeah.
they were talking about the civilian class. I think they said they started off with roughly 100 students, but I think by the end of it, they only had like 20 that actually graduated the course with them.
Yeah.
Pretty high
Yep.
washout rate.
Yeah, huge. And then that transfers to when you get to your facility. As you're training in facility, you can still get washed out. So yeah,
Yeah, because
between the two,
they had a newer controller up there, and I think he just got certified within the facility, but it took like 6 months, 6 to 9 months, or something like that to
Mhm.
get certified.
Yep. Yeah,
So
it takes a
it's
long
an
time.
incredible amount of training.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's volumes of books. And the other really key skill to it is you have to have spatial awareness. You have to make that 3D map in your head. You have to understand closure rates and things like that. I mean, you have to be able to plan ahead. And I think that is one of the things that I talk about in that course, is planning ahead, having a vision, operate, making good decisions, and actually thinking through things before you make the decision, see how it's going
Mhm.
to play out, see all the effects that it's going to have. So all that stuff is what I talk about in that course. But those are the things that you have to be a good air traffic controller.
Yeah, I think planning, right? And
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
that a lot of organizations do that well. We can always be better at it, but it's
yeah.
something that good planning is a skill in itself.
It is. Yep.
And it can make all the difference for an organization. And in the military, we use long-term planning and then short-term
Hmm.
planning, right? Then current ops,
Yep.
future ops, things like that. And
Yeah.
you got different teams associated with each one of those.
Hmm.
Large companies that really have their stuff together, like Tesla, Coca-Cola, they have teams of people that are already projecting, like they're focusing on plans a couple of years out. And then
Yeah.
they have a team of people that are focused on like the next maybe 12 months, maybe near
Right.
term. And then they got people like in the current operation. So there's different tiers of planning that organizations use.
Yep.
And it's a skill for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other skills that's really important to have when you're talking about planning is being able to pivot quickly when things
Mm.
don't work out correctly. And again, that's something that we talk about in that class, but I think that's an underutilized skill, or at least
Mm.
undervalued,
Yeah,
because
know when to cut your losses and pivot because it's just not working.
yeah, yeah, find another way to get there. But yeah, those knee jerk reactions that we often talk about, at least on the military side, where it's like, dude, why are they doing this? Who thought of that? Who okayed
Yeah.
this? Those type of decisions, they're not thought out. What are the adverse, or what are all the reactions, whether it's good or whether it's bad? Um, you have to weigh those before you actually make that decision. It has to be quick, especially if it's going to be one of those knee jerk reaction ones. But again, that's kind of a skill that you learn in air traffic, that actually transfers well to the private sector, and actually making decisions and leading and managing people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, Describe a time when you, as an air traffic controller, that you had like maybe a significant challenge. Did you ever have anything that was kind of like just one of those moments where you're just like a stressful occurrence?
Yeah. I mean, training was always stressful for me, but I'm trying to think, because you see so many different situations. Every day is different. I would say the most stressed that I've been, um, is when I had 100 operation hour. And so that means 100 airplanes touch the runway in 1 hour. And
Oh wow.
it's insane. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's busy. So I would say that's probably the most stressed that I've been, because you have so many different scenarios, so many different planes coming in from all different directions and speeds. So you have
So
to work that stuff out.
that's not 100 on the same specific runway. That's just in the sphere that you were operating in.
Yeah, so in the tower's airspace, every time, it would be an aircraft taking off or landing. So
Okay.
there's a hundred of those operations. Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I was
pretty busy.
envisioning in my head. I was just thinking Fort Leonard where they only have one strip. So it wasn't one strip; it
Yeah.
was multiple strips that you're responsible for. There's still a lot of aircraft coming in, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Yep. So I was operating on parallel runways for that one. But yeah, so I mean, thankfully it was parallel runways. I don't know if I could do 100 ops on a single. That'd be tough. But I mean,
it's
if you
like
put that into perspective,
one, yeah, one
yeah,
like every what 40 seconds or so, 45
roughly, yeah,
seconds. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
lot.
It's a
And,
lot. I mean, to put that in perspective, Atlanta, Jackson, Hartsfield, Jackson, they do roughly 120 an hour.
wow.
So yeah, and they got 5 runways.
Yeah, wow.
So it's stressful.
Yeah. So one bad call or bad day, and I mean it's
Yeah, yeah,
catastrophic, right?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So
So
I'm
there's a lot of
assuming you
pressure.
learned how to be calm under pressure, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, it comes with time and experience. I'll tell you that much. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest lessons that you learned? You have a course on this that people can go and check out, but what are some of the key signature principles that you learned that are applicable to leaders?
I would say planning and communicating the vision is number one. I know we've talked about that on the podcast today. Um, Making good decisions, or how to make good decisions, and making decisions under pressure. I would say those three things are kind of some big staples of the course. But again, there's roughly 10 lessons that I go into. Those are probably three of the biggest ones that I think I really hit hard on. Um, because things can change in an organization in a short notice. So, and you have to be able to pivot. And I've experienced that time and time again. And I will tell you that having a couple of backup plans in your mind ready to go in the event that happens really comes in handy.
Yeah, absolutely. So planning and vision are the two keystones, if you will, of what you like to really hone in on.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think those are two really big, important ones. But yeah, we go into a bunch of other stuff too, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
I think from a leadership perspective, something that I think is beneficial but often overlooked is providing feedback, evaluating, and
Yeah,
coaching and mentorship.
absolutely.
And I know prior to hopping on this call, we've talked a little bit about coaching and mentorship, which is why we got into it. It affected us so much that we ultimately became coaches ourselves. How has coaching and mentorship affected you in your life?
It's had a huge impact. I would not be anywhere near where I am today if I hadn't had good coaches and good mentors along the way. And I mean, it's not just one person, it's multiple people. And sometimes they know it and sometimes they don't. I like to silently watch what people do and learn from them, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But the people that have actively been my mentors have been instrumental in creating who I am today. So, yeah, it's a huge impact. I would not have been able to pivot and make a lot of big decisions that I needed to when I had to, if it hadn't been for a lot of the lessons that they taught me. And I know I mentioned it in kind of like um, earlier when we talked, but when I was national director of the pararescue and SEER program for Civil Air Patrol, that was my first year. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And if it hadn't been for what they had taught me over the years, I would have drowned and I would not have made good decisions. I probably wouldn't have made it through I probably would have just straight up been like, yeah, somebody else take it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
those lessons are instrumental. And I think that coaching and mentorship, everybody needs it at some point. So,
Absolutely. As I think back in my life and my career, that having coaches and mentors to share their lessons learned to help you shorten that knowledge gap, because we're all
yeah,
on a journey, and sometimes we make common mistakes, but with a good coach and mentor, they can help you avoid some of those pitfalls so you can get through that challenging situation a little bit better, a little bit faster. And it, it's and that's with any aspect of your life, not just business. I think with your
yeah,
health and wellness, if you hire a trainer or nutritionist, you're going to have a greater outcome, right? You're going to have someone's going to
yeah,
hold you accountable. They're going to teach you what they know, so you can learn all of this on your own. But what you're doing and doing that, you're spending a lot of time and effort doing that. A coach and mentor is going to help you shore that close that knowledge gap significantly. For
absolutely.
it could be with your finances. It could be whether it's personal finances or business finances. Could be your relationship. Sometimes we need a relationship coach or a counselor or something like that to help us shore up those gaps. Um, and then, I'm a high performance coach. So I work with like business leaders and individuals. You're doing the same thing because we have a lot of knowledge from leadership and what we're passionate about to help people see things from a different perspective. And I like to say, why do professional sports teams have a coach? Don't they have the best players in the country on their team?
Right.
Like, why do they have a coach? Well, because sometimes you need someone to give you that perspective. They know the
Mhm.
stats of the player of the other team, and they can see like, hey, shortstop, you move to the right a few inches, you're going to be able to intercept that ball. Things like that, little tweaks, right? You can
Yeah,
move people around, and those little tweaks make all the difference in the world.
that they do. That they do.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but kind of going back to what I said, what do you think about giving in the coaching and mentorship process? how often should you be giving feedback and evaluating subordinates and coaching them from a leadership perspective? What do you recommend, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think mentorship and coaching, I think that's kind of a daily thing. I mean, again, it depends on where you are within an organization, how your organization runs, but um, I like to. There's nothing wrong with monthly feedbacks. There's nothing wrong with quarterly feedbacks. Absolutely, if you're not doing anything else, you need to do annual feedbacks. But I think quarterly is a good time. But depending on where you're at in development, maybe monthly works. So I think it just depends. But feedback is necessary for growth. So yeah, that's what I would say about it.
No, I love that. Feedback is necessary for growth, because if you're not growing, then you're stagnant or you're dying, you're
Yep.
declining. You know, there's
Yep.
just there's no other two other options. And I think that feedback, I know organizations do give like annual feedback, and I've had supervisors do annual feedback, but the best leaders I had gave continual guidance and coaching.
Yep.
And it's one of those things I noticed in my military service. It's usually one of the first things that we tend to just cut out. We don't have time for that.
Yeah.
But by not giving people feedback, that's the time where you can talk about the vision, talk
Mhm.
about how they're performing with that vision. If you don't have those touch points, this is what I've seen happen, is that the individual subordinate will think that they're in alignment with the vision, but they're not meeting your expectations.
Yep.
You're not really articulating that because you haven't made time, or some supervisors don't have the courage to tell someone the hard truth. And so when it comes time for evaluation, it's like this person thinks they're going to get a great evaluation. It's like, and then they're receiving a bad one, and then they're pissed, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's where you have the, well, I don't feel appreciated, I'm out.
Yeah. No, it's exactly true. I've seen so many people that got pissed from their evaluation. And you talk to the supervisor, like, well, where were you?
Yeah, yeah,
You're supposed to help them. you know,
yeah,
guide them to meet the expectations that you outlined in the very beginning in the initial feedback. That's what you should be doing. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
because when you have someone, you give them their initial guidance and feedback, and this is your expectation. These are your roles and responsibilities.
Yep.
Then, as a leader, we have to come in and evaluate. We have to, doers do what checkers check. I love that, because people will do what you measure, right? You're coming in to
Mhm.
measure and spot check. Are they in alignment with your vision? You're reminding them of the vision. You're empowering them to do things, but you have to give them feedback. Like, yes, this is going well. Hey, maybe we need to shore up some things here. We're not doing so well over here. What do you think we can do to make that better? Right? Get their
Mhm.
input and buy-in. But oftentimes we don't do that. We're going 100 miles an hour, and then it comes evaluation time, and then it's
Yeah.
like, oh well, you haven't been performing well. Well, I've seen you every day, and you haven't said a damn word. What's going on?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, but that's also another point that you hit on. We're going so fast and we have so many different things pulling us in different directions that it's hard for us to actually sit down sometimes, one on one with that person and deliver that feedback. So it's about time management. It's also about communicating to the higher ups, like, hey, listen, do we really need this, this reporting system or this program? Like, is it giving us any value? If not, let's get rid of it. That
Yeah,
way you're saving time and you can actually focus on developing people.
yeah. Why are we doing this report? I don't know. It's just something we've always done. Well,
Exactly.
I've had a lot of that, and I've definitely had a lot of that in the military. And some of these
Yeah.
reports are time consuming. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, oh well, I don't know. The previous commander wanted it. Well, does the
Yeah.
new commander care?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. Well, shoot, you just save the staff a whole bunch of money or time and energy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So all those things they're important. It's also important to, when you do the feedback and the coaching, it's an opportunity to encourage, right? You can champion and motivate their efforts,
Yep.
because I don't think you can do enough of that.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I actually like to end with the positive stuff personally. I mean, if I'm going into it, I'll hit on the negative first. That way we end on a high note. I think that leaves them with a little bit more encouragement at the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I like to look at leadership as like a coaching, right? I think it's
Yeah.
coming at it from a coaching perspective, and a mentor. And you gotta be able to communicate. You got to be able to have the courage to tell them when they're not performing well, and give them, y- you know, having them understand what you desire for them and the organization, and then come to the agreement of how they're going to do that, and hold them accountable to what they agree to versus having an expectation and not communicating. So I'm with you on the communication bit. And I've seen it in my experiences. I've had good organizations and good leaders that did that well, and I had some that didn't. And I'm the type of person, words of affirmation is one of my love languages. So I
Yeah.
love to know that I'm doing well. And I just kind of am I on track with you? Like, am I doing what you expect me to do and want me to do? I need that. And I perform better when I have that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're pointing in the right direction or not, absolutely. I think one of the other things that you talked about, but to go a little bit more in depth with it, is I think people today are a little bit more afraid of conflict. They don't want to get into a negative light with somebody. They don't want to have the difficult conversations. So I think that's something that's going to be a challenge for people to overcome, and us as coaches to teach people how to overcome that fear of conflict.
When I think about that in a business sense and leadership sense, there are a lot of conversations that are had over text and email
Yes.
that are inappropriate.
Hmm.
And I think that's dangerous. It's because they want to avoid the face-to-face
Yep.
conflict, if you will, of the individual. And oftentimes I'll be like, they'll be at odds. I'm trying to craft how to say this person pissed me off. I'm trying to formulate an email.
Yeah.
Have you picked up the phone? Have you went by their office to talk to them? Have you scheduled a meeting? Wouldn't that better? Because there's a lot of things that are lost in translation.
Absolutely.
And so when I think about conflict, I find a lot of people avoid it and they resort to texting or email, which isn't appropriate.
No. And like you said, a lot of things are lost in translation. The tone,
Mhm.
and honestly, the nonverbals are huge. So that's how you can really kind of gauge whether somebody's really pissed off, if they're upset, if they're hurt. You don't get that through a text or an email. So I think the face to face, I prefer it, to be honest with you. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of people need to get back to that.
absolutely.
Whether it's like this or actually in person, where you can see somebody, it needs to be face to face.
Yeah. I mean, Zoom is a great tool, to be able to do that. But over relying on text and email, I think, is a problem for a lot of organizations. And I think that it just becomes the easy go to. But I think it creates a lot of that tool is over relied on and probably overused.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what other leadership principles that are near and dear to your heart that you help leaders overcome, or challenges that?
Um, I would say, I mean, that's one of them, conflict management. I think the biggest thing would be time management as well. I
Hmm.
think with everything coming at you and pulling you in so many different directions, you have to learn how to prioritize and manage your time effectively to make sure that you can get things done and you're getting the right things done.
Hmm.
I mean, me personally, I have a huge whiteboard to my left here, and that's everything that I have for every organization I'm involved in. It's got my to-dos, it's got my quarterly goals, it's got everything. So for me, that's how I stay organized. Everybody else is different. Some people like everything on their phone. So I think that's one of the other key aspects to being a good leader or manager, is to be effective with your time.
I think that is a fundamental, crucial skill, because if you can't manage your own time, how are you going to manage your team's time?
Yeah. Yep.
And our life is measured through time, and it's not just our work time. It's really our life. How do you manage your life in general? Because there's a lot of leaders that will, man, they do very well in the workplace with their time management. They got their Outlook calendars all synced and good to go, but they don't have their life in time management. So I look at time management as in like life management. And your career is a critical component, but so is your family and your health and your hobby.
Yep.
And if you can't manage all of those things for yourself, then it's going to be very difficult for you to lead a team of people, because you're going to expect that you have to manage other people's time and resources and energy.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%.
What are some common pitfalls that you see when you coach individuals about time management? What are some common things that you see?
People that just don't know how to do it at all. So that's one of the things that I kind of teach, is the different methods that you can do. You got like the ABCDE method if you're a list type person.
Mhm.
You can make little charts, different things like that. But there's a lot of people out there that just don't know how to do it. And they're just like, they wake up and they're like, what do I feel like doing today? And then they just do the first thing that pops into their mind, or maybe they have a to-do list on their fridge, but it's not prioritized. They're just going down the list in order that they wrote it. But that's really not necessarily what has to be done at that particular time. So yeah.
Isn't that crazy? That's not taught like in high school. I mean, this is a critical skill. I had to kind of learn it the hard way. I mean, in the military, you get the little green notebook, carry around if you do that in the Air Force or the Army, little green notebook. And so you start off by doing that. But it wasn't until I got into recruiting and I took a couple college classes that I like the Franklin Covey planner where I learned how to do the ABC method, right? So for those that may not have heard of it, A tasks are something that you have to get done within 24 hours or the whole world burns down. B tasks are critical, probably 48 to 72 hours. And then C tasks they're nice to do's, get to them when you can. The world's not going to end. Now, if you wait too long, those C tasks can become B tasks and A tasks. And then you enumerate them, A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a great way to kind of like organize. It's like the next level of organizing your to-do list.
Yeah.
But you're right. People aren't taught how to do that.
It's a life skill, and it should have been taught in high school. I mean, they gave me a planner and they're like, here's your planner. I was like, what do you want me to do with this? Like, I don't know how to use this, and that was when planners were kind of the thing for school. But ultimately, like, I have a planner. I have everything in a phone calendar that's synced to everything. I've got, a paper planner. I've got, the whiteboard. Everything is redundant for me because I move so much that I need it to be visible to me. Yeah. So again, I think you have to kind of learn about yourself a little bit too. How do you operate? Because everybody else operates differently.
I think that's one of the challenges is that the planning system is individual. It has to be individual because some people do better with a day planner. Some people do better with a weekly, monthly. Kind of depends on the type of work that you do. How detailed do you need it? Are you better at analog versus digital? I use a combination of paper, and then I live and die by my Google Calendar. I use Google because I have my phone with me all the time. But I will do everything. Like I got my little notebook here, and I'll take my notes and I'll update my to-do list, and I'll plug it into my phone because what I do is I assess the time needed to execute that block of time into my phone. And then I get the little cool alert reminders that, hey, I need to do this thing. Yep. And so that works out really well for me. But I think everyone out there needs to have some, if you value life, even if you're listening to this, you don't consider yourself a leader, your time is fleeting and you need to be able to manage your time. And the more effective you're doing that, you're more effective at managing your life and even being more effective, like in your relationships, like have reoccurring like date night in your phone so you don't forget, reoccurring hobby time, reoccurring time to spend with your kids. Like, but some people would be like, well, why should I schedule that? Because if you don't, it's going to get you're just going to get stepped on by Netflix or something else. Right?
Yeah. Or you're going to fill the time with something else that's not as important. Yeah,
because you've been shooting from the hip, so something's just going to randomly, distract you because that's the habit that you've created for yourself.
Absolutely, and I think I'm huge on introspection. I think everybody really needs to kind of take a step back, from the life going on outside and figure out like, okay, who am I? What works for me? And there's nothing wrong with trying a couple different methods and seeing which one fits for you. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So I experiment with it. Go have fun.
I think trial and error, and there's going to be some frustration as you try something new, especially when it comes to it. But it's definitely a skill. The best leaders that I worked with, basically, they're experts at their time management. And then you get to a point where you have someone, that's your assistant that's managing your time and your calendar for you as well.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But everyone that's performing at the highest level, it dominates their calendar. They are very good about putting boundaries around it. I know people get frustrated with me because they'll call me or they'll send me a message and I may not respond to them. Well, I don't respond in real time. I don't have time to do that. Mm-hmm. And you'll see the people that are really good at managing their time. They operate that way. They schedule everything through a Calendly or something like that. They don't just shoot from the hip. Yep. And it makes you more effective.
Absolutely. I mean, every minute of your time is accounted for throughout the workday. And if you really want to set those boundaries, like, listen, at 5 o'clock, work's done,
Yeah.
then you do that. You can't be afraid to say no. And then from 5 o'clock on, that's family time, or that's my time to work out, or whatever it is. I mean, you set the boundaries and people have to respect that. And if they don't, well,
Yeah.
by the
And,
wayside.
and when you get really good at that, then
Yeah.
you mitigate the water cooler conversations or
Yeah.
being in the military, a lot of wasted time there. You walk in on Monday morning, people will spend, the first hour of the day talking about football from Sunday,
Yeah. Yeah.
before they even, get into the work. And I'm like, this is such a waste of time. Like I would rather work hard and get the
Hmm.
hell out of here when the work is done. But our society is really structured by the 9 to 5 system, so,
Oh,
but,
100%.
and it's
Yeah.
unfortunate because there's so much time wasted.
Yeah, I mean that's something I've talked about with people too. Is that hourly wage or that hourly 9 to 5 type thing, is that kind of antiquated now? Because I ask people, what are you paying for? What are you paying your employee for? Is it productivity and brain power, or a butt in a seat? What do you want?
Yeah.
If they get everything done in 4 hours, send them home. I mean,
Yeah.
we've already, because there's so many other consequences that come from the 9 to 5 and being paid hourly. I mean, give somebody a salary, have them do the work that they're required to do, and then they go home and they can spend time with their family. They can get healthy, whatever it is. I mean, we talk about the big crisis with the breakdown in the American family or whatever it is. Well, 9 to 5 kind of has a little bit to deal with that. If they finish it in 4 hours, they can go pick their kid up from school. They can spend time with their kid, educate, work on homework, whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, ask yourself, what are you paying for?
Yeah. It takes some discipline to be able to do that, but if you're effective at time management and that gives you flexibility, and I'm all for cultures and organizations doing that because I think it's going to make for a happier employee, right? When they have flexibility
Absolutely.
to do that.
Hmm.
And so I think time management enables organizations to be more effective, give more flexibility to their employees, and it's a fundamental skill that's got to be. People generally suck at it.
They do, they do. But there's a lot of stuff that we need to actually start teaching in schools at a fundamental level. When they're going through middle school and high school, so that they can ingrain a lot of these things in their head, and actually, as they're an adult, know how to do these things. So we don't need adulting classes in college.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The adulting 101. Isn't that
Yeah,
embarrassing?
it
That's
kind of is.
embarrassing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what do you think about the topic of oh, as far as empowering your employees? What do you think about you've heard the term micromanagers? How
Yeah.
often have you worked with organizations that have micromanagers, and what are the outcomes of that type of environment?
Um, I can tell you, micromanaging is not the way to do it. It sucks. Everybody's miserable. I think empowering people to make decisions, and just empowering people in general, leads to more innovation. It leads to higher productivity. Um, if you want updates as a leader or a manager, you request it, but you don't need to be breathing down somebody's neck or looking over their shoulder at what they're doing all day long. Um, give them some flexibility. With flexibility, you're going to yield great results. So I'm huge on empowering people for sure. Just give them the guidelines. Give them the guidelines. Let them go.
There's a couple schools of thought. I think people that that have the ability to empower their subordinates, trust and believe that their subordinates are going to do a good job. And then you
Mhm.
have micromanagers who don't trust that their subordinates are going to do a good job. But I will say the organizations that micromanage and don't trust their employees, like there's some fundamental things that are happening there that are just naturally going to create a toxic environment.
For sure.
And it's it's definitely the worst organizations or bosses I've had were the ones that didn't trust and and just micromanaged. And I'm too much of a free spirit to be micromanaged. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of bogs you down and you don't get anything done. It stifles your creativity. I mean, again, you also have to know your people as a leader or manager. If you know that there's a guy that just kind of lollygags all day long and doesn't get anything done, you're going to have to stay on top of them a little bit more to make sure that they get it done. But the people that are turning things in on time or doing what they're supposed to do day in, day out, let them be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And if you got someone that you have to supervise overly, I mean, is it the right person that you want in your organization? You got to,
exactly.
yeah.
In the military, we didn't have a choice, but
Yeah. You get issued, yeah, who you work with. So that was tough.
right,
So,
right.
yeah. So, well, we're approaching an hour here. So
Yeah.
what other tidbits do you want to talk about in regards to leadership? Is there anything we're missing?
No,
I mean, we
I'll
could
be
talk
honest.
about
I think,
leadership all day long. We can do a deep dive on it. And
yeah, I think we hit on quite a few things today and a lot of important things. I would just kind of reiterate, there shouldn't be a negative stigma to getting a coach or a mentor. Everybody should have one. Depending, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Um, find somebody that knows a little bit more than you. You know, get under their wing. Let them show you how to do stuff. Invest in your people. Invest in training. Don't send them to seminars where I think in our business, at least the coaching business, there's a lot of people that are pretty good at bullshitting.
yeah,
Like, hey, I created a $70 million business and I can make yours just like that. Like, don't send your people to stuff like that. Send them to people that actually care and that are not money motivated, I guess. Do
yeah.
your research. I think that's really what it boils down to, is do your research, make sure these people know what they're talking about, and train your people properly.
Yeah, there's a lot of seminars that are pretty rah. You go there, you get pumped for a day or so, then you go back, and it's like, well, it hasn't really made a significant impact in your organization. But I think good coaching can come into the organization and give you constant feedback on a consistent basis. I know
Yeah.
as I coach, I typically coach 12 weeks at a time. I can come in and do a seminar, and I've done
Mhm.
that, but I like the continued touch points,
Yep.
whether it be weekly with the team or in an individual. And how I structure my coaching is usually 12-week sessions. We'll have, the topics for 12 weeks. And then we basically renew every 12 weeks if they want to continue that or not. But 12 weeks, I think, is a good amount of time for about an hour to 90 minutes a week is
Yeah.
the sweet spot for my coaching. What about you? What is your tempo?
So I just do monthly and quarterly coaching at this point. But again, I don't have like a 12-week program or anything like that. It's just a continuous process. For
Mhm.
me, I focus on what that person or the organization is struggling with. And then we work to fix those problems. Whether it's communicating a vision, I'll teach them how to communicate a vision effectively, how to create it first of all, and then how to get it out to everybody so that they understand how to get the buy-in from the people in the organization and things like that. So that's just kind of how I operate. If you're at that like tactical to organizational level or early organizational level, that's a monthly plan generally. If you're at that higher level organizational to strategic or executive level, I do quarterly coaching, because at that point you're dealing with things that take time to develop.
Mhm.
Things happen a little bit faster at the tactical level and the organizational level. So that's why monthly, I think, is a good sweet spot for it. But on the executive coaching side, I think quarterly is a pretty good one. Again, I'm open all the time. If you in between those times you need to contact me and we need to discuss something, sure, let's schedule time. Let's do it. Because things do change. But when you're at that quarterly level or the strategic level and doing the quarterly stuff, it just gives things time to play out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how I
So you,
operate.
you take, yeah, you take kind of tailor to what the organization needs.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Awesome. Well, that's good,
Yeah.
man. And I think, like I said, I think it's definitely something, the organizations that invest in it and believe in it, and you get the right coach for the team, because I think you have to have the right synergy and the right people for the
You
team,
do.
man, it can really make a big difference.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
well, so what's the future look like for Azimuth X? What are you working on? What are you excited about?
So I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier, but I want to get into a little bit of group coaching, because I think in certain environments with the right people, you can actually learn a lot from each other.
Mhm.
So going based on other people's experiences, other people giving advice. So that's probably going to be the next step for me. Um, and then I'm going to start creating a couple more videos and releasing those throughout the year as well. So if you just want to, get better at time management, there's a video for time management where I teach the ABC method, the Eisenhower method, stuff like that. So, I mean, they're quick little videos, but if you want to jump on that, you can. So that's kind of the future, I think.
No, that's awesome, man. I think definitely the world needs this training and these skills. And I think also from a veteran perspective, thank you for your service. like legit. It's not just a catchphrase, but
Yeah.
I think I love seeing veterans taking their skills into the marketplace to make the society better. And I think that we need more of that in our society. There's a lot of veterans out there that are lost. They don't know what to do next. And like, man, you have so many skills that you have overlooked and you have no idea like how badly it's needed in our society. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're stepping up and filling that role, I think is just awesome. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
That we're on the front lines here of trying to use our skills and make the world a better place. So,
Yep.
well, how can people get in contact with you?
So you can visit the website, www.azimuthx.com. I'm on social media, Facebook. I'm on Instagram. So it's Azimuth X Leadership and Management Training, if you want to look me up there. And then you can schedule a call with me on the website, or you can, well, it actually goes to my Calendly link. So yeah, just set up an appointment on the website if you want to get with me. And that's the best way.
Awesome. Well, hey, Andrew, I appreciate you taking the time to come on, and yeah, we look forward to seeing your organization grow. And if there's anything that we can do for you, let us know. And for all of our listeners out there, if you want to connect with Andrew, we encourage you to do so. And yeah, in the meantime, keep doing hard things. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the podcast. If you like this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you're notified of future episodes. I would also love to know, what is your takeaway? What insight did you get from today's episode? You can screenshot this, send it to me on social, post it on social, tag me, and when you share like that, someone else out there may need to hear this message today. Only 10% of people are engaged in personal growth and development, and there could be a nugget here that could put someone in a positive trajectory. So feel free to share that, tag me in it. Send me a direct message, send me an email, let me know what your thoughts are. And you can connect with me on all social media. You can send me an email at jay@jtiegs.com. Take a moment, leave a review on iTunes. No matter if you're listening to Spotify or any other platform, like iTunes, I guess, is the gold standard for reviews. And it really goes a long way for the algorithm, for people searching for personal growth and development. And it helps us go a long way. It means a lot to me that you took a couple minutes to do them. I read through all of them, and it just feels good knowing that that this show is impactful. So if you gain any value, just ask that you do that. If you want to level up, you want to take the next step in your personal growth and development, you can go to jtiegs.com, jaytiegs.com. We got a variety of options. We got one-on-one coaching, high performance coaching through the High Performance Institute, certified high performance coach. We've got a few different curriculums that I take people through. I also do group coaching. If you have an organization that needs a speaker, or you want a live workshop, I can come in and deliver some training to you and your organization. We also have the exclusive Forge Mastermind group that is an elite community of like-minded people that are growing together. And we have a weekly call there, and we're going to be rolling out new content for that. And then also we got apparel. So the we've got go to dohardthingsapparel.com. Get you a Do Hard Things shirt. Show the world that you do hard things. We got hoodies over there. We got hats. We got stickers. We got patches. A variety of different things, and we got a variety of different models coming out. So go. You can show the world that you do hard things, and you can go over there and support us that way. That'd be great. So, in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Keep doing hard things. We'll see you guys in the next episode.